Disipere?
Non sempre, 가서는 용으로 했습니다. 근데 용으로 어땠어? 이날이 템포에 먼저 쓰면 템포에 말아.
네.
제가 시내에다고 시내에 와서 시내면은 근데 축제하고 있나요? 제일 좋아.
Yeah.
근데 용으로 때때도 용으로.
Right. So yes, it's possible to get some understanding, right? It's like this. It's like a little glimpse, but not a full understanding when you meditate. You can get these kind of partial understanding, but it's never stable because our minds, we can't focus. Like until you've got calm abiding, then your mind you get some understanding, and then it goes, and then something will come again, and then it goes. But once you have a stable mind, then you can keep it for longer. So if so, how do we know? So then then if so, how do we know that we have realized this pure mind? So 생긴 내력 간대사고기도 건크블라데 대신 시비님 뭐 the same takba pure mind, right? So you mean pure mind? You mean Buddha nature, or okay, the Buddha nature?
산지 이ring서.
상이 들이 간데스.
내가 균전 상담에 하고 그래 당고대. 균전 상담에가 먼저 생을 열게르게요. 그래서 냠뇨 상담, 수수 냠뇨 상담에 해가 냠마로 시가 두가 이제 오티신게 말아. 하던데 이제 또 티신 제가 냠마 마신이 지금 단다 쉐브 차이도.
Right.
이 균전은 내가 그 시그레 수수 냠뇨.
Okay, so you kind of have to come to understand it through study, right? Like as you study and you learn more, then you can start to understand what it is, right? It's like learning learning English or any language. First you learn ABCD, and then gradually you learn to speak more and more fluently. So it's the same with the understanding of the Dharma. You have to study and learn, and then you can start to understand what your Buddha nature is. Right.
아니 미가시 당고 때 콘도사위나 아니 공자로 전신 제일 미디 배 콘도면요 미배 장관 제와 근데 통구도 미야고 많이지 야고 차도 요르고
Right. So it's the same like with any person that we meet. Sometimes you might meet people and they've got a lot of difficulty, right? They get angry easily or whatever it might be. But over time, especially if they practice, then that can change. And there's some people who initially have a lot of anger issues, but they become very calm and peaceful and kind over time. So it's people have this potential to develop over time. So then also through learning about the pure mind, can we just get projections of what we think the pure mind is instead of actually getting the real deal? So sometimes the Lobjan Chena and in na samlatang di sangirig yin. So then di sogire semnanga sogire di none mare inanga di migpa sogire and di anga samlo di sipre or di kandi haku.
수수심을 열어.
Yeah.
지난데 저단제 생각은 열어래요. 이나야 수수를 디데 답변이 두슬라면 디세요. 먼저 남과산제에 단단한 디셰리다 발진 태고에 남과산제로 수차에 당들 디셰리다. 수수를 심데라 라고 메시지 라고 단테스 참모 메시지 참모 디셰도 거요 말.
Right.
나왜 계제 셰어인데다 남과산제에 배우는데 차단 셰어인데 심데라 타라 배망고 셰어. 심라고 참모든지 제 단단한서 암전이야 계제 셰어 나도 줄라. 근데 여러 가다 이모션 저 상마 심라고 그래. 심라고 그래. 다심 참모디 델레 차드지 먼저 니남네로 니고라. 니고데 먼저 미그타야 말에 앉아 그 상매데 그래서 상마 심라고 막가지 칭사다. 다심까지 참자. 다데네 먼저 곰냠내 마지니로 먼저 곰냠내 제위나 곰냠내 제로 하다 곰자 안데 수수생게 여자다는 시다다 건도다는 데서 파파가 안디네 마마 그래 아니 그저 여자 자시 나도 배드 바까 배드 거랑 바까 배드 바까 사네 아니 쌤디다 내가 공개하는 데잖아 다 배정하다 게 시험들 아주 자스민 거라 자 부모로 맞아mas
Three roots.
다 단단하죠 기디 짜디나라 롱도고요 말 롱도고요 말꼭 디니 담샤 디니
Oh, okay, three channels. Yeah. Okay.
디니 나라 롱도 한데 다 되자다 시나다 두저 디나 롱도고요라
Right.
다 공개하는 데잖아 롱디 디나라 기디나라 단데잖아 디니 가로 디니 다 데려가 차로고라 아니 쌤디 데 나는 쇼드잖아 다 배드 도거라고 막 가자 도거라고 해서 가자
Okay. So yes, it's basically possible to create anything with the mind, right? So yeah, all actually it says all phenomena is created by the mind, right? So you can make up anything you want, but to
이네 쌤디 샤젤로 유튜브 말했어.
네.
쌤디 서버 정말 영두고요 말했어. 요거 말했어.
okay, so not everything is mind is like this.
쌤디 서버 참제 연구 말했어. 왜냐 내딘 추저에서는 연신하고 그래요 말. 내 쌤디 삼단제로 뭐에 내줄 연구 말했어.
Oh right. So
뭐에 내줄 요디 쌤디 서버스.
right, so yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everything is apprehended by the mind. Like we don't really understand the nature of things that we perceive, right? So, but it's definitely possible to create these states. But if you actually understand what the real understanding of the mind is, so when we talk about it, mostly in the sutra, so there's sutra and tantra. In the sutras, it deals with the gross levels of mind, and then a little bit with the subtle level of mind, right? Whereas in the tantras, it gets into the various different levels of the gross down to the very, very subtle level of mind. It talks about all of those. So generally when we're talking, for ordinary beings, we don't have any awareness of our subtle mind. Like all this what we're doing on this activity, talking to people and going around, that's all dealing with the very gross level of mind. The only time ordinary beings experience a subtle level of mind is when they're sleeping. So at that point, your mind dissolves down into more subtle levels of mind. But so this is what ordinary beings can experience. But for a meditator, basically when they're meditating, and you have three channels. So you have the central and the left and right. Now normally the energy goes up and down like this left and right channels, right? And that's where anger and attachment and all of these things arises. But for a yogi, they can actually bring the energy into the winds. The mind goes through the body on these winds, and they bring all the winds into the central channel. And then the left and right channels cease, not cease to exist, but cease to have wind going through them. So they cease to be active, and everything comes into your central channel. And then, it becomes very stable, very peaceful, and all of the gross levels of thought and that are completely stopped. Right, but this is something we develop over time, like through gradually removing our delusions and things, and working with our mind, and gradually developing it like that. Because at the moment we're only dealing with very gross levels of mind. But when you can meditate and bring all your energy into your central center, and all the gross levels of mind become cease, and you deal with the very subtle level of mind. Okay, so the real Buddha nature is this very subtle level of mind. Right?
아니 참바다 닝제 동반이 과디게 거. 이게 얘나 아니 대신 참어디 뭐세요디. 아디 장주생 뭐지 나무 뭐지 장주생. 다 장주생 고 링엘라 정다제 타와 백드스 여러 주 나무 시름디제 여러. 시름이도 고 독초저 남산심 참어디 장주생 뭐지. 장주생 뭐 다가랑 알아. 아니 동이도 두이나. 아니 되게 장주생 유리게 어디 남라슈도요. 티제 남슈도요라. 한 돈이 그 전주쌤 다랑 그 돈이 더는데 아니 딘지 방로라고 딘지 냠부 체로라 다디 랑모 주제 산제 두고였다 냠네시 산제 사 두스도였다 지금 산제 릭세 두스 코드 때디 코드레 빼야고요
So as we said, this subtle, very subtle level of mind is what we call this Buddha nature. But you have to kind of work your way up to it in a way. Like, there's a whole path. So you need things like reliance on a spiritual friend, understanding precious human rebirth, death and permanence, karma, law of cause and effect, love and kindness, compassion, all the way up. And then when you start to develop bodhicitta, that's when you start to enter the Mahayana path, right? And when you combine that understanding with emptiness, then you enter the path of seeing, and then you develop up, and then slowly you develop up until you reach the state of full enlightenment. So this whole gradual path to develop up to the understanding of your nature of mind. Right.
시르드 다 셈라고 되게 봐봐 팀로 당고 암저 과면 이제 차로 그래. 당고미 과면 이제 차로다 시르드. 당고미 과면 이제 차. 내 암저 과면 이제 차. 근데 치도서 매우차. 안에 되네 레그전 과면 이제 차. 안에 내 템바도서 가. 안에도 제 셈라고 되지. 시르드다 시가로. 안에 셈이게 말하지. 안에 신도야 셈 참모디 양모디 주고요. 셈 참모디.
Okay.
다 남녀네메디 가로 그랬다고. 저시마 그래서 내 가사신제대로 아니 내 겨울에 오사에는 미겨울에 노래 내 미거 모사에는 아니 전도다 냐오다 이달 겨울에도 아고 두스 코발도 나 로라 코에 자와당 산제지 리기 신디요 이 코에 자와레 산제지 리기 니가래
시갈라가
이제 셈 담으시도 시갈라게 되면 셈 담으디
right
추제나 야야야 남로도 산제사도 그래.
okay.
추 맞으나 코 코월도 그래.
Right. Okay.
니가 루트다. samsara
Right.
sanjay ngala de mixed de
so the kiwa gema this the same time the kiwa gema okay yeah so basically for ordinary beings the only time they can actually do this dissolution into the subtle mind is at the time of death, right? Then through the death process the mind dissolves down gradually into the subtle nature of mind, right? Or into the subtle mind, not nature, into the subtle mind, right? So first of all, your senses start to fail as the mind becomes more and more subtle. So first your eyes stop working, then you stop hearing, then your sense of smell stops, and then your tactile sensation ceases, and then your mind start more and more dissolves down and down and down until it reaches into the subtle level of mind, right? And then the subtle level of mind they become aware appears. But what happens then is for ordinary beings, then they're propelled by their karma, right, into their next rebirth. So if you've created virtuous karma, you'll have a positive next rebirth. And if negative karma ripens, then you go to the suffering realm. So the subtle mind is what goes from life to life, and it causes rebirth in samsara. So basically, in Tantra it says that this subtle mind is both it's the source of samsara and it's also the nature of the mind. So it's the source of enlightenment. So for a non-practitioner, this is subtle mind is what propels you from life to life. But for practitioners who can develop their understanding of it, that's how they can actually utilize, that's how they can actually attain enlightenment. Okay. I might leave question 2, I'll give somebody else a bit of a chance. So in the examples definition, it talks of the body of the Buddha. Are there any examples of Buddha nature regarding Buddha's speech or mind? Or is it suitable to just add body, speech and mind of Buddha to these definitions and examples? Okay, so the pedi nangla, and it's any sangme di sangi ku labgire, you know, the nagtang yi sangi mare. So di kande hokudu, di pe nangla, di nagtang ku tang yi pe shembe yure, or di nangla ku labna dini nagtang yi some dinang le yore, so di kande hakugudu.
다데 배 당보디가 디샤가 디시시고 산지지 샤요가 배 당보디나나 산제랑 샤요가 와 디시시고 구슈바 디시시고
Sorry, the payment.
배면나 배 당보디나 샤잖아
Yeah.
디시베 고유디다 송다 나다 상마 요로 산제게 류가요스들라 나다 이 상마 요로 산제 구송투 모치 상마 찍거라고
Okay.
세상 요요래 다디 세상이 강이 되고 산제는 강이요
So yeah, like in this first example, we talked about the lotus flower. Then the nature of the body in this one contains all three: the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. Because basically, where you have one, you have the other two. It's you can't separate Buddha's body, speech, and mind. It's not like an ordinary body, right? So when we talk about the body of the Buddha, you can understand it to be the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha.
세상 디 통전에 다시 뭐 개념식 말했어. 세상 마시고 해야 내가도
Right.
하고 다라래 제 산제 디신식고 그래서 디신식의 릭스와 디신식의 릭스 사다네 디 드위밍 줄이야 다 그래서 다 따단되고 되고로 다 산제 디 되고로
Oh, okay.
세상 드위밍 줄이야 다 그래서
Okay. So, but
말해서
when we talk about this example, so it says here, like in the example, it actually talks about the body of Buddha nature, right? Rather than the actual body of the Buddha. We talked about this a little before. Because it's an interpretative, like understanding, not a literal understanding of the words. Because for the way that it's looked at in this wording, it states that this nature of the Buddha's body is the cause, and the result is the actual Buddha's body. So it's not that it's the cause for the Buddha's body rather than the actual Buddha's body itself. So that's how you can understand that. Okay, are we good?
Is it necessary even to say body when we just talk about Buddha?
So Sangegi rig. So then he Sangi Kugi rig. So what does it say here? Nature. So Deshin Shimpe Ko and Deshin Shimpe Ningbo Kepakari.
지시베 닝고스도 산제 이릭들 지시 산제 꿀라도 소본들와 지시베 닝고라도 산제 이릭들와 호텔 보고
Right. So when we talk about the nature, this nature of Buddha nature, right? It's talking about like this. Well, that's it, the nature or the lineage. And when we talk about the nature of the Buddha's body, then it's actually the body of the Buddha. So they're slightly different in terms of the meaning.
그래 매도 사면다 매도라고 지고
Right.
매도 사면도 시리를 보라 매도라는 디샤데 교도 되나시 지고
In addition, you know, Dishin Shimpe Ko and Dishin Shimpe.
매도라고 지고
Oh, okay.
디시시고라고 매도 사면서 그래
Okay. So it's something like the nature of the Buddha's body, it would be like a flower, and then the Buddha nature would be like the seed. So it's related, but they're not the same thing. Okay. Then you said that some of our Buddha nature is obscured by delusions and some by our body. Can you explain how it is obscured by the body as opposed to a perception of the body, since the Buddha attained enlightenment with the body? So, kaya song the sangigi rig the nansa lu kyapgire lu tang nyama niga di kyapgire, right? The nansa tong tobi mana. So you know nansa lu kyapna dini di kandire kaya sangi chamdinde di lu di nangla di sangi top sasons, right? So dini nansa kyu kandi kyapgire na lu di kandi kyapgire kandi haku. Kainsena the nansa the dishinshibenia the sangigi rik nansa the kyu the kyapgire nansa lu di nangla lu
nangla sanje rekap
lu di sangi rik kyapna dini nansa the lu sangi rik kyapna dini kandi sangi topgire di kainsena sangi chamdende di lu nangla sangi top sasana so dini di lu kandi kyapgire.
먼저 산제 탐제라 산제 리기요래라 그래서 다디 nganzu rigdi toba jondinde shaje toba chagre sigyo mares chayo mar manzo ngaranzo susu sanje charo ngwa mere chan mere re susu sanje re charo ra
Right.
de 이자 미상마라 상마 센제 탐제라 야네 산제 기니바디 요바인자 아니 센제 탐제라 산제 리카브레스 디 균제데
Right. You know, the lu can be killed.
르가레
Lu, and answer lu, body, right? Sangi rig kyab gire. So lu di kandi.
르라 리kimbe 캬마라 먼저 르라 뉴바지 여와
Okay.
뉴바디 야 도르메지 먼저 르디 도마 르 코나 도마 르디 레다 뉴모죠 코와디오라 코빵고레
Okay.
코 뉴바지 도고라 뉴바지 에너지 도고라
Right. So this, you know, when we talk about this Buddha, it's not like Buddha attaining enlightenment. It's the potential for all of us to attain enlightenment in the future. So it's our individual potential through practice and developing our mind that we will in future attain the enlightenment, state of enlightenment. But this body is not something that we take with us to enlightenment, right? At some point we have to it's the nature of our mind that reaches enlightenment. At some point you have to kind of abandon or transcend this body to attain that state of enlightenment.
어디 이제 저래다 로스
Awareness. So Sangiki Rig Tang ultimate awareness. I don't know what's meant by this ultimate awareness. I haven't heard this term before.
Enlightenment, probably.
So the question is, Buddha nature, could it be also named as ultimate awareness? I don't know this term ultimate awareness and what it is, so I can't really translate it. Because the direct words will not have much meaning.
But it means, the question is Buddha, what is it, Buddha nature means enlightenment? Is that what it means?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Whoever wrote this question, do you mean, is Buddha nature, could it also be named like enlightened mind or something like that? Would you be happy with that? We'll go with that then. So Sangi Rig Tang, the Sangi Gopang Chikpure or
말해봐 지금 말해 선제 고마서야 돼 우선 톱자대로 선제 릭스 뉴버대로 뉴버대 이제 돈이 이제 선제 고마 톱으로
So yeah, like this Buddha nature is basically a potential, right, to attain enlightenment, or if you want to say ultimate awareness. But this is a potential, not the actual state of enlightenment or awareness itself. It's this ability, this potential that we have to develop into that state. It doesn't mean that like you necessarily have these qualities.
에브로비 시지 소지. 아니 톱제디 에브로들
Right.
사고라다.
Yeah.
시디디 라 뉴바이어 에브로게 뉴바이어와.
Right.
그래서 디 먼저 톱제문에 가려나. 에브로드라고.
Right.
에브로를 내가 뭔가 적어오라. 이게 냐면제.
Right. So it's like this from the point of a seed to getting to an apple, right? Like the apple. The seed has the potential to produce an apple tree, which will then produce apples, right? And then we can eat the fruit. But there's a lot of work that has to go on from the point for the seed to actually reach the state of being an apple, or producing an apple. So it's the potential's there, but all this stuff has to be done too.
So when we're trying to obtain Buddha nature, we're just trying to be the seed, let alone the apple. We're just trying to obtain.
No, you've already got this.
You've already got Buddha nature. You don't have to obtain it. You already
The
have.
fact you've got mind is the seed.
Yeah.
Conscious.
Yeah, like Buddha nature is not something to be obtained. We already have it, right?
Yeah.
But enlightenment we have to obtain.
Yeah.
So
But
you
realize our Buddha nature.
recognize. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Recognize. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. So then we get on to the last question. So how much of an effort does obtaining knowledge of the pure mind have on the pure mind itself? Without knowledge. Okay. Without knowledge of what it is, we can't find or realize it, but if we believe we need more knowledge and attach the idea the idea that more knowledge will allow us to get a pure mind, we are clouding our minds more and pulling ourselves further away from the pure, non-deluded mind. So kind of the Lobjan chair, right? The Sangi Lobjan chair, the Tosam Mambo go good. Did the Tosam Mambo Jena, then some the Nanso Rig Kapgire, kinds of the Zugu di Dawaro. So the Zugu Mama Jedi the Nanso Rig Kapgire, Sangi Kapgire, right? And the Lobjan Mambo Jena did in Mama Jedi. Sometimes the Pentacle the Kapgire, so the Kandi Haku. The Kapgimare, yeah, clouded, Trimba, can you send it the Trimba Jawa Sogire, or can you some Samla Mamba Tagani did it, any day Hako Gimandu, or Samla Mama did it.
Oh, dear. Did he? Other than the Trevor and Samba Gombachi, the Tablan Rover.
Right.
그래서 탈람디가 시에나 하고데 그래서 먼저 두zu 창마 대마마르에 상당으로 대마마르 좋아 대마마르 텔라 시에나 텔라 호린체라 아니 텔라 걸고 되더라
Right.
텔에 내 빼지셔고라 먼저 보르나라 두고 좀 계속 바로 들어와 보시면 바로 들어와라 주진하는데 먼저 주진다고데
Right.
먼저 쳐봐 삼바 공부해야 돼 먼저 다 저는 주진데 자주 파르레 산에 주진데 샤워를
Right.
단도 주진한 데나 아니 저는 자주는 데 그래서 어디나지 쳐봐 삼바 공부를 셴바지기요
Right.
셴바체나 딜 착신체 딜
Right.
호딩체나
Right.
디징 디엔가 수징이야 아닌가요?
Right.
이가요.
So-
저요.
Yeah, it's a good question because this when we're talking about the study and so forth, we're talking about the method, which is the three: listening, reflecting, and meditating. And we need to, in order to understand, we need to meditate on this lack of true existence, right, and dependent arising and so forth. But if we kind of get holding on to that, like if we get hold on to the concept or the meditation or something like that, then this becomes a problem. It's like we can say this. This method is like a boat, right? If you want to go across the ocean to Australia or something, right? And you get a boat, and you get the boat's great because it takes you there. But at some point, when you reach, you have to get out of the boat. If you don't get out of the boat and you just row around in the ocean, well, then that's not really the point, right? So, at some point, if you get like attached to your meditation or your ideas or your study or whatever it might be, then you're creating another prison in a way. You're binding yourself with a different, you're just creating another way of binding yourself. And so this is not the point. At some point you've got to let go. Like I used the example of the finger pointing to the moon, right? You've got to look at the moon, not just the finger. So it's like that. It's actually a danger. Like this is a recognized danger in practice as well. Like,
맞아 남버렸어 봐.
right.
맞아 남버렸어. 거기서 힌두래. 거기서 이슈래. 거기서 가지래. 이 저런 거기서 최대 야고 말했어. 먼저 최대 야고래라나. 이 자신의 제사. 차고 찾아. 좋아. 먼저 야고 거기서 두자서 차고지. 다든지 먼저 뒤에다 남버 팀메드들 먼저 야고 팀진 별거 남버려. 별 나나 가지고 사자 님마 여러. 나 기록이 약셔래서. 아니 내나라 지라서만 보면서 하면서 MMG 징겨 징거서 보여라 징거서 보여 제가 네 맞아 MMG를 홀린 쟤는 제가 징거 그래서 달란데 쓰서 징거
So we face this danger on many levels. Like, we can think, we're Buddhists and therefore we're better than all the Hindus, and they're Hindus and we're Buddhists, and it creates attachment, right? This creates attachment to our way of doing things, our view, right? And even within Buddhism, and even within Tibetan Buddhism, then there's Kagyu, Nyingma, Sakya, and Gelugpa, and we think, those Kagyus, they're a bit rubbish, right? And the Gelugpas, we're better, and even more, it can be like, we're FP&T, we're even better than the other Gelugpas, right? And it's so, you can create this bind, if you create attachment to whatever, it binds you, right? And you can use many things like this Buddhism or FPMT to create to bind yourself or create like a prison for yourself.
제가 탑람라 신주 다른 뭔가 지 너무 좀 이제 공부를 다들 아니 배우겠다 남장가를 지금 말하다 다들 다들 저 미션 랑서를 저 숨겨야지도 티 탑람래 다들 배 아무도 제대 호링 제대나 드네 파스스 상을 놓두고요 말에 티 탑시 제제 다 가르고 내줘 티 탑은 수수기를 닝지다 장바께도 주고 수수 주다 잠바다 닝지 깨도 제거를 탑람도 비주 제거고요 봐 탑람도 비주체 나중에 탑람 비주체 동반이 떠야 돼 수수그 동반이 떠야 돼 자라 뭐부터 수수랭 고요 미스지 라고를 때 두고 말 탑람도 비주체 뭐네 수수그 제제 깔래 장을 해야 돼
Okay, so like this, all of these parts, like they're just a method, right? So there's many teachers like this Buddha, and then we have Nagarjuna, and then we have Tibetans like Lama Tsongkhapa and Milarepa. In modern days, we have like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, right? But if we start to think, oh, this is really awesome, and we kind of hold on to it, then it actually can become problematic, right? So the point of it is to develop like qualities like loving kindness and compassion. So it's a path in order to develop those qualities, and then also ultimately understand emptiness and these things. So this is just a method to do that. If you actually hold on to the method, and this prevents you from getting the understanding, then that's something you need to look at.
이 사제 준비되지 동반이냐 고물루도 동반이냐 제르무시 동반이냐 말아서 공개 동반이냐 지구지 그냥 다 답람도 이제 비주시제 네 배다 세고 유들라 로고 여러 먼저 단대 대 가데 가지 마도도고요 말고 마 삼모 마 띵서고 로고라다
Like a wall.
월 같은 착신이 와 띵어서
okay.
like 띵대도 먼저 되는
Right. So, like when we talk about emptiness, then we've got to, in order to understand, we have to think about it a lot, and we have to analyze it through examples and reasoning and all of these things. But what we need to also understand is that, like the Buddha taught emptiness, and these great masters like Nagarjuna and Lama Tsongkhapa, that all taught empty, but their emptiness is all the same, right? But what we're in a situation is, we have a problem because we've kind of created this like a cage around ourselves, and this prevents us from actually seeing the nature of things or understanding the nature of things. So the point of all of this is we need to open the cage and like get out and have a look around and see the nature of things, not just create a different kind of cage.
What is the cage?
The gang di karere. The nanzo the gang yorero. Right, so self-cherishing and self-grasping. Yeah.
Western, Eastern, and woman and man and young.
Okay, so there's self-cherishing, self-grasping at the root, but then from that comes all sorts of other attachments and so forth. Like now we think, we can make all different, like West and East and man and woman and Tibetan and non-Tibetan, and so these all extrapolate out from that.
그래서 두 상단 가시에 된데 신고시 가시 미리기 신고 숙청부인이 삼바기부요 말.
Oh, okay.
대리도 신나라 강에 차도 가족이 삼바 자체로 정말 파찬인 것이 때서 표현이고. 그래서 남부산이 선제 탐제 시에인데 너도 반주고에 뭐 오늘은 상상 고에요 말아. 나한테 소고요. 제가 최디 삼아 영마다는 반주 수에 내가요. 양치마시나 먼저 최신이 남배 최신이 됐어. 나도 야고 인생 지나 찾아서
So yeah, you shouldn't, like, the point is you shouldn't be holding on to your like way or your kind of group or lineage or anything like that, right? You know, what you need to be doing is having like this more vast and open mind, right? Not this, because this grasping makes your mind like small and unfocused, right? And then, so if you can have, the point is, as Buddhists, we're supposed to be breaking down these barriers and opening ourselves up, not kind of creating more barriers that are there, right? Or more borders or boundaries.
So, we sort of suggesting that we study further afield, or?
So none of the, like other religions or other. So the Shemba, the Naza Nangcha Chikpa Jango Gimare, Shemba Jango Gire, Pena Tsenreg Tang Yeshu Tandis.
장고에 계제 말다.
Yeah.
네가 촉신지 촉리지요 착단지요 말해서.
Okay, yeah, it's
장야지 수수디 장 냠년체 수수디를 참고다 인제 얘기했던 거.
right.
인제 참고에 이제 겨울라 심지 탐제의 동해세우도 이제 가시야지를 미 가시야 많이 있는 로고 말아가지고 딜라고 뭐 참만 장고를 해서 이제 디시고
Right. No, he's not talking about what we should study, right? He's talking about not having attachment to our particular way. Like what you should be studying and practicing is whatever helps you to develop loving kindness and compassion. Like that should be the point. But the point is not to be having attachment to your particular way or your particular thing, and then thinking everybody else is not, you know, and like rejecting everything else. You know, as the point of this is, as Mahayana Buddhists, we're supposed to be benefiting all sentient beings equally, not having focus on some's better than others and things like that.
샘버 자신 거 나 샘게 세도
Yeah.
샘게 샘버 자신 거 기와서
Right. So when we took, I think the mind of awakening. This awakening means the awakened mind, bodhicitta, right? The awakened mind is this very vast and open mind, right? That's the
지도가 상스들에 지도가
chitta is Sanskrit, yeah.
인지티 걸라고
Bodhicitta is like awaken, mind of awakening.
Loving bodhi and
Bodhi is mind and chitta is awake, right? No,
cheetah's mind, isn't it?
yeah, chitta is mind, bodhi is awake. That's right. So yeah, awake, mind of awakening.
샘게 샘자지여서 오라
Okay, so
샘자지 배배직 다다 줄리긴다
okay, so the Tibetan word chet is almost to like produce, right? So you produce this very vast mind. Like it has this connotation of very vast and open. It doesn't, like he says that this awake doesn't quite hit the nail on the head.
아니 진짜 줘야 돼
No, I think we're out of questions. Anybody else have anything? No, you got another one there.
No.
No, that's it. Okay. All right, shall we rock on? What did we get up to?
단단히 리직시에시네 우리 단단히 릭세의 탑지 당기시에 살아와.
Yeah.
릭세의 탑시에. 다 릭세의 따들라네. 베나당도 단다 태고 정보를 자셔봐. 디젠이
Okay,
산지가 세드 하네 지 태고 정보 되네요. 아니 태고 정보 장로다. 아니 샘진이 동해 통은 다시 미글 치마 쇼고도 하고 아니 샘제 따따 이제 통은 샘제 신이 디둑당 아니 태고 정보 길레신이다. 근데 통은 이제 아니 샘야지 처벌이 이제 다시 미네 치마 쪽 여기 보우당 세븐 미네 치마 쪽
okay.
여기 보우당 세븐
Right. So when we talk about
치다 나가다
when we talk about the sign, so tambo di tab and then tug di tambo tanyupa, tambo di tab, right? Di tab. Okay.
탑지 로사를 당기.
All right. So we've covered off the first one. We're talking about now this awakening to your nature, and we're talking about the Mahayana, awakening to your Mahayana nature or your Buddha nature, right? So when we start to awaken to our nature, when we things like taking Mahayana refuge, or when we understand the suffering of sentient beings, or when we come out like receive teachings or contact from a Mahayana virtuous friend or like profound teacher, then it has a very profound effect on our experience to the point where, you know, our hairs will stand up or we might start to cry or things like this. And when we have this type of experience, that's the sign that we're starting to awaken to our Buddha nature.
태고 첨부 릭세인데 닝지 첨부 줄에 껴고 닝지 첨부 줄에 껴왔던 태고 첨부 릭세 난다 치다랑 저 류지 거기다 미기 치마주고 들어왔던데 치다죠 나라 닝지 첨부 줄에 껴
Okay. So this is like the outer signs that we're talking about here. The inner sign is that when we start to develop great compassion. When we start to develop great compassion, that's the inner sign that we're awakening to our Buddha nature.
태고 첨부 티진이 릭세거든 티진이 산제의 릭문에 세거든 닝지 첨부 줄에 껴왔던 산제의 릭세 딱고 니세야
Okay, so once we've actually Okay, so when we actually develop great compassion, so not uncontrived great compassion, but when we develop great compassion, then we've awakened to our like Mahayana nature.
예, 다들 릭세니다 릭레세사도다 대과점에 남는 로고라다. 대과점에 먼저 남 공고라다. 남 산제 누구야 세사다 산제사 로고라. 왜나 남 산제 남게 당고 시고 장고.
Okay.
나도 로전 시려라 단다디로 로전 시해도 다들 대나네다 먼저 남 대과점에 닝지 첨부 맞이에 공을 삼로 가르당 거래다. 닝지 첨부 게 탐랑 하셔죠. 되게 시에나 이제는 편도 차야 되는데요.
So once we've developed this great compassion, and then we've awakened to our Mahayana nature, then we start to actually develop towards Buddhahood, right? We start to head towards Buddhahood, and we do all the study and the practice and these things along the way. But we're basically headed towards Buddhahood. So, but previous to that, having developed this great compassion, what do we have to understand? And then we need to think about the benefits, Sangigi Riggi opinion. Right? Oh, so we have to create the causes for great compassion and understand the benefits of great compassion.
No, this is that. And 닝지 첨부 이게 두 약속이 그러지. 나는 저 뒤시게요. 근데 내가 뒤에요. 근데 내가 뒤에 건데. 로장. 다시 냠지 건데 로장이 왔다. 니 그다 시시래.
Okay, so what is the best way to create the causes to develop this great compassion? And it's through this meditation on the 7-point mind training and the exchange of self for others. These are the best methods.
당보들라 먼저 당문에 닝지 첨부 계약에 냠네 태고 첨부 산제에서 릭세라 당보지 이거는 문제 백더스 거야. 당용 냠네 저었다.
Okay, so amongst all these, the first of these in this developing this practice is this practice of equanimity.
제가 나는 심지 탐제라 찬념되면은 아니 닝지게 두고요 말 닝지 첨부 여와체로 오라.
Right.
제가 뒤인데 나도 당보 심지 탐제 나도 냠바이기다. 수수 3년 남았다. 소고고요다.
So if we don't see us all sentient beings as being equal, then it's impossible to develop genuine compassion or great compassion. So we need to first equalize ourselves with others.
단데 근데 명화 뒤지간에 아니 심지 탐제 딱 줘야지 당연 줘야지 내가도 근데 명화 뒤지간에 줘야지 그래서 나 심지 탐제랑 마치녀 마시는 거 당보되고 마시는 거 써도 시대장가 딱 아주 도스랬다 제단 确实这个상단에 몽골하고 참고도 하자 심지 탐제랑 마시는 시원은 겨우 마시기 남샤도 시고 되게 이제 나시 기우 딩다 기우 청구 남샤디 맞아 고고였대
Right.
겨우 심한 원들한테 그만 겨우 마시 남샤디 원 로고 대전에 레레 남샤디 로고 대유나 나 심지 탐제에 아마 진요 도스야 삼로디 여나 아니 심지 탐제 마시 봐서 이문고요 대콘 기우 딩다 기우 청구 남샤디 시려고 왔다.
Right. So in the 7-point mind training, the 6 cause and 1 effect mind training, it's easy to equalize. Well, the technique makes it easy to equalize ourselves with others because we need to see all sentient beings as our mothers, right? And at that point, you have to equalize with them. But this statement, all sentient beings are our mothers, actually requires a lot of background training.
마 인시요. 마치니.
Have been our mothers, sorry, not are our mothers. Have been our mothers. That would be a bit awkward.
지난해 아마님은
Yeah, that was okay. Let me rephrase that a bit. So yeah, okay. All sentient beings have been our mothers, right? So, but making that statement opens up a whole lot of other understandings that you have to establish. First of all, you have to have trust in like the law of reincarnation and the law of cause and effect. So basically, to understand all these things, you have to study the small and the medium scope to get this understanding. So in order to develop this understanding that all sentient beings have been our mothers, then you need to study and develop the small and the medium scope of the Lam Rim as well first. So now we're starting, now we're getting up and now we're going back. It's all right. Right. So, to have one understanding, you need to have a lot of others to kind of back it up. So within the path, everything like mutually supports each other, right? Or the understanding mutually develops from the other understanding. So this is why you have to kind of not skip any of the steps. So you can't really smash out the Lam Rim, unfortunately. Yeah, you have to get it all together nicely. You can't just smash it out. Believe me, I've tried. It doesn't work. Yeah, you can smash out your delusions, but that's all right. Oh, okay. So New Zealand, Oh, China. Okay. Oh, okay. So this idea of past and future lives, previously was just thought to be something that are held by like Dharma practitioners or sort of spiritual people, right? But now it's actually becoming more widely understood. So in China on the news, sometimes they have people who can remember like their previous lives, right? The Trengidoodle. Yeah, they can remember their previous lives, so they actually have them 2 or 3 times a year on the news, and they talk to them. Interview them, yeah. So they interview them about their experience or their understanding. Right. So if you believe in past and future lives, then understanding that all beings have been our mothers becomes much easier to understand. Right. Right. So and if all beings have been our mothers, then all beings must be equal, and then that's a good way to kind of reduce your ego. Okay. Right. So, these days in the West, maybe it's, well, not in the West, but these days maybe it's dangerous because not everybody really has that positive relationship with their mother, right? So, if you don't really have this affinity towards your mother, then you can look at it that all sentient beings have been everything. Like they've been our child, if you have a connection with your child. They've been our father, they've been our teacher, they've been our girlfriend, they've been our boyfriend. Whatever you feel a connection with, then all sentient beings have been that. And in that way you can develop this connection and equanimity.
랑종 홍모 근데 고문 뭐 자오데
Mm.
이 시름이 오면은 아니 인지 정보다 가고 싶어라
So you have to kind of, this is your homework to really meditate on this, right? Because if you don't understand the steps, then it becomes a bit difficult.
이 당용기 선대 야고에나 스스 즉 니링 지에서 직딩에 니에 딩에 다레 딩에 에니미 세스도 디 매우서 삼면나 디 매우서
So if you,
매우서는 아니 간대야고도
so then, you know, this equanimity kind of gets rid of this feeling of closeness and like near and far, right? Like, friends and enemies and all of this sort of thing. And then if you have that equanimity, then it makes life a whole lot easier.
아데나네 거디 뒤에 내려와 말아서 다 거디 스스로라 뒤에인데 이미디제 등하라 편도 신고를 했어. 신다면은 지우드저 말을 편도 신고 거기서 깨 이미디 지우다. 와야지 되지. 이 바주드저 맞아 주라사고 요래 오마동고 요래 거기서 거디 신고라고 하더라.
Right.
근데 제주 스스 예외는 얘네들이 봐 고주제 나도 상황하라. 한개 신고래 두성말로 편도 신고래 두저 장병에 나 담다 되고도 두저 장병에 제외하게 나 초대에 상대비는 아니 맛이 진 템버스야 돼. 용고요. 진 템버로 아까 수술로 편도 거기 제가 시고요.
Contemporary. Okay. So then we need like this. So therefore, once we've kind of got this understanding, then we need to recognize the kindness of all sentient beings, right, and how all beings benefit us. So even things like this, the birds are beneficial because they have this beautiful sound which he really likes. They like singing, or the cows benefit us by providing us with milk. So you can actually find that all, if you think about it, all beings are of benefit to us and are kind to us. And when we start to recognize that, when we start to really understand and appreciate that, then that's said to be remembering the kindness of others.
디유나 아니 수수 딜 가월리 미디 수술라 편도 제거디 야고하거나 아니 뭐네게 다 가월리고 가월 차야 리고다. genuine loves 그러다. genuine love.
So when you really recognize the kindness of others, and you really start to appreciate that, then the mind becomes very joyful, right? And then at that point, that's when you start to develop like a genuine affinity or genuine love towards others.
디유나 아니 수수야 미디다 두루두루 동해 통하는데 동해 통받아 동해 토요데 동해데 세 내가 같이 그도서 아니 저와디 저와 닝지 남산 깨요. 닝지 깨요 맞세 아니 닝지 동해세 탑시 내가 같이 그도서 학삼 디고 학삼 와와들래요.
Right, so when you see the suffering of others, right, and then you generate this genuine wish that they might be free from this suffering, and when at that point where this wish becomes so strong that you kind of feel that you have this responsibility to take that on yourself, then that becomes this special intention at this point.
어디 딴인지 야제 다야로 디게데 시름 맞아디 네바도 공거다. 디 고마도나 디게 상무데 땅마다 맞아 인지 깨도 말. 인지 깨마도나 산제 리세도 말와. 다 리세게 담부디 니세 벨 약셔도 저다. 알람 약셔도 저다.
So if we don't, like, we need to meditate on these stages gradually and develop this compassion, and then when we develop it more, then we can start to awaken our nature, our Buddha nature, or our Mahayana nature, right? But if we don't follow these stages, then we won't be able to develop genuine compassion. We won't be able to awaken our nature. So these are like the alarm clock or the bell to help us wake up. Yeah, I don't know if that's what Shanti Deva had in mind when he wrote it.
club. Sarah, you know. I'm going to Sarah. We midnight 2 o'clock, want to go to bed, and we're not enough sleeping, you know. And then that time we have midday nap, you know, nap, long nap sometimes. We necessarily 1 hour busy time we need just 1 hour sleeping. And then 2 o'clock, 2:30 go to sleeping, 1 1:30 and they get up, 1:30 to 10, 15 minutes in the shower, and 2 o'clock need to go to teaching, listening, teaching. And the nurse is sitting in the, and my friend says, your eye closed on the floor, very good, no look like that, and it's, the commission
So he's got this. It's like he's got this meditation power to just.
He teases, your eyes are completely on one hand, alarm clock, this. And they are laughing. Then what happened? You did 3 times. We have seven monks together living in one room, We lost the alarm, good alarm clock. Laughing, all the job. One monk, big sonore, One day we put it in the corn.
Field.
Civilian.
Yeah, in the field.
We take together in the bed, slowly, and we put it in there. We all, man was teasing. Now he's slow here.
Okay.
It's 81.